Great. So I think the last equation of Massimiliano was a great introduction to my presentation. I will talk to you about more the building area and energy efficiency, because as Massis showed us, energy transition is not only putting photovoltaic cells on the roofs and changing the coal or the oil heating systems to heat pumps, but it's also thinking about energy efficiency. And I mean now building owners, small buildings, but also quite huge buildings are quite convinced now to change, to do the energy transition, not only to renewable energy, but also to energy efficiency. But still, we see that, as Massimiliano said, there is a huge gap in the energy efficiency market. As we see, and this is also shown in the literature, that even though there would be many nice and promising technologies that would bring a lot of energy savings, we see that the investment in energy efficiency is not occurring, or at least not a sufficient rate. And so we can ask us, why is this the case? While technology seems ready, we have a lot of nice, many technologies that are available, but we see that building owners cannot do the step. And so in the literature, there are many reasons, or they try to explain why they don't invest in energy efficiency, while it would be economically, there would be a high economic return to do it. And the main reasons are, first, that the building owners don't know where to invest. They don't know in which technologies to invest. They don't know with which resources. Even big building owners may not have the human resources or the financial resources to invest in energy efficiency. They're quite, we see that usually they invest in non-energetic renovations. But also we see that it's also a case of decision making, because usually we see that owners are typically focusing more on initial cost, while they should maybe take care also of all the operation cost of the building lifetime when they do the decisions. And because of that, they don't invest in energy efficiency. And finally, there is a huge risk to invest in energy efficiency. Even if you have the better engineer that will tell you that you will save 30% of energy while investing in this technology, you don't know if it's true. You don't know if you will recover your investment. So it seems that when we talk about energy efficiency, we have focused a lot on technology, and now we're quite ready. But we may have forgot also the behavioral and the economic aspects when we have thought about that. Now, if you put yourself in the feet of a building owner, imagine now you want to do the step, you want to jump this huge gap there and invest in energy efficiency. Now, what is your surprise when you see that actually there is another gap? That because you invested in energy efficiency, you still don't know if you will have actually energy savings. And this is what we call the energy performance gap. We have seen in the literature that even the buildings that were targeting mostly the high standards in terms of energy, it happens that they consume twice or three times more than what was expected at the beginning. And so what are the reasons for this energy performance gap? The literature have shown that actually there is the estimation which is done ex ante by the engineers. And these estimations are based on norms, but the norms are not the way that people will actually live in a real matter. For instance, we assume that they will heat their rooms at 21 degrees, while we see that sometimes it's 23 or 24, and this can have a huge impact. So we see also that the buildings now are quite more and more complex. This is due to the nice technologies we have, but at the same time, the people who are taking care of the buildings need to have the formation, need to know how to control and regulate these buildings. And also we have to see whether we consume more, because there are a lot of buildings where actually we consume twice as much, but we don't even know that because we don't compare it with what was on the projects. Then we have the users' behaviors. Imagine that it's too hot in your building, and we are in the winter, but you cannot call anybody to say that you are too hot, so you just open your windows. And this is quite the things we see, that if we don't have an interaction between the guys who are doing the regulation and the users, then you have a huge overconsumption. So you see that these two gaps can explain at least mostly of the problem of underinvestment in energy efficiency. And so I will show you maybe a way that we can overcome or at least reduce these gaps to make sure that the building owners may jump these steps. To understand a little bit better, I will talk about the energy renovation market as it is now. It's a little bit caricatural, I admit that, but it's just a little bit to, I don't know, introduce the debate about that. How it is actually, the firms are currently competing on the initial cost. When you want to do a renovation and you do a call for tender, I'm talking here about a huge renovation like large buildings. You do a call for tender and the firms will compete only on the initial cost. Then the engineers, how they are paid? They are paid as a ratio of this initial cost. Then what is the contractual agreement with a general contractor, with a group of engineers and architects? Usually the contractual agreement is on the equipment installed. So you have a requirement on the equipment, and then you see if it's the correct equipment which has been installed, and it's supposed to run. If it's not running, the firm has to pay. If it's running, then the firm can leave. But you have no contractual agreement on the energy consumption after the renovation. So nobody is looking for if there is energy consumption. Actually, you may ask for the firm to pay if the color of your painting is not the right color, but you cannot do anything legally to the firm if you're consuming 2 or 3 times what you were expected to consume in terms of energy. What we see as well is that the people who are deciding or working on the renovation projects are typically not the same as the people who will exploit, operate the building or use the building. And so you have a huge discrepancy between the renovation projects and what's actually useful and what will be important in the operation term. And I mean, in the operation cost, you see that it takes many years, but it's more and more expensive as compared to the initial cost. So this cost should also be taken into account. And usually we forget it. We just focus on the renovation project and we don't think about the operation and maintenance. And finally, the labels, the energy building labels, Minergie or stuff like that, the subsidies as well, and the legal obligations are mostly, I say mostly because now it's becoming to change, are mostly targeted at means. So you can have a subsidy if you install photovoltaic cells. You have legal obligations. If you have ventilation, you need to recover the heat. So you need to have an equipment which can recover the heat. But you have nothing that check if afterwards it's working as it is supposed to do. So for instance, you have installed some nice solar panels to produce your hot water, but if it's not producing at all, nobody will say anything. So if you have useless solar panels, nobody will say anything. So I mean, it's not targeted at the performance results. So this is a bit I think the situation which make me think, and this is the debate that we can talk maybe afterwards, is why don't we change that? Because it's not, according to me, it's not giving any incentive to go to energy efficiency. Maybe to renewable energy, because the legal obligations, quite easy to have a legal obligation on the renewable rate of your heating systems. But for energy efficiency, we see that we don't even check the results. And this is part of the problem, I guess. So imagine a world, and this is what I call the paradigm shift. Imagine a world where the firms will not only compete on the initial costs, but they will compete on the overall cost. So we'll take account for the renovation, the operation, the maintenance, also the replacement of the equipment for, I don't know, 10, 15 years, the regulation, the measure of the energy, and also the energy costs. You will take account of all these costs and you will make compete the firms around all these concepts, not only the initial cost. Imagine a world where engineers are not paid according to a ratio of the initial cost, but they are paid as a share of the energy savings and the maintenance savings. So that in the project already, they have to think about, okay, what is the impact of the equipment I am suggesting in the long run? Not only now, but in 10 years, 15 years. Will I need to replace it many times? Will it actually run as I think and will bring energy savings or not? The contractual agreement will not only be on if it's running or not, if the equipment is running or not, but will be on the energy and maintenance saving over the long run. The projects you are doing is supposed to decrease energy consumption and equipment replacement. If not, the firm has to pay. If yes, the firm is rewarded. You have a bonus-malus system. The people deciding and working on the renovation projects are on the same team as the people who will exploit and use the building. Actually, the firm who is doing the renovation project will stay there for many years to check that the project it has done will perform at it is expected to do. And if not, you have an incentive system to improve over the long run. And finally, imagine some labels, some subsidies or legal obligations that are targeted at results. So you see, I don't know, 1 year, 2 years after the renovation projects, if it has led to energy savings. And you verify and you measure it in the long run, and you have an improvement process. You don't need to have malus at the beginning. It's not what I'm saying, but maybe you have a bonus if after 2 years you have performed as it was expected. So this is kind of the paradigm shift I think that could lead to more energy efficiency investment. And I think energy performance contracting is one business model. It's coming from the private side and not from the public side. And this is also why it's interesting. It's a business model that actually, I think, works already in this new paradigm. So what is energy performance contracting? An energy performance contract is signed between a building owner and what we call an energy service company, an ESCO. It includes certainly an energy efficiency project. It could be retrofit. It could be huge project like building insulation, cooling or heating equipment, replacement of the lighting system. But it could also be small energy efficiency projects like regulations, improvement of the system. It's a long-run contract, so it's not only including the renovation project phase, the realization phase, but also all the operation phase for 5, 15 years, depends on the equipment you have installed first in these contracts. It's covering the studies, and the firm is staying in the long run. It includes always, and this is the core of the energy performance contract, it always includes a contractual commitment to reduce energy consumption, or at least to increase energy performance through time. And it can also include a reduction of the maintenance costs. Of course, as there is a contractual commitment, you have to measure the energy consumption. You cannot say, my project will bring you 20% energy savings. You have to measure 1 year afterwards if it works, if you have achieved this 20% energy savings. If not, you will have to pay the difference. If yes, or if you have done more, then the firm is rewarded. This is how the energy performance contracting is working. And it may include energy performance contracting can also be a financing tool, because you may have the firm who is investing in the projects itself. So it's helping the owner to invest, and it is repaid throughout the years to recover the money. So this is how we use the energy performance contracting as a financing tool. Usually you have first energy cost in blue. You do the renovation project, so your energy cost and the maintenance costs are reduced. And during the whole contractual phase, the ESCO is taking part of the savings to get repaid of its investments, also to pay its commitment to its guarantee. And in green, it's the energy savings that is recovered by the owner. And at the end of the contract, the owner is recovered the whole energy savings. Okay, so I think I have a few slides more, but I think I have already talked a lot, and as Rachel said, I would be glad to discuss about this with you.
Thank you, Sandra.